Good morning, boys and girls. We are continuing with our unit on Native Americans. What have we already learned? Remember that the upright walkers in the story were Native Americans from the Wampanoag tribe. What kind of houses did they live in? Well, they lived in dome-shaped huts called weetis. What did they eat? They ate clams, fish, corn, potatoes. Today you're going to hear about another Native American tribe, the Lenape. Listen carefully to find out more about the Lenape people and how they lived. Here we have a picture of the 4 seasons and the Native Americans in the eastern woodlands. The Lenape people have lived in the eastern woodlands of North America for thousands of years. For most of that time, they lived on the land. They hunted and gathered and later farmed. Their daily lives were guided by the seasons, and each season brought with it certain changes. Springtime meant that the days were warmer and brighter. Springtime also meant that new life was appearing everywhere. One of the first signs of springtime was the appearance of some flowering plants and trees. This included the black cherry blossoms. The sight of the beautiful white blossoms made the Lenape people smile. The blossoms were usually a sign that the last snow had fallen and that animals would soon shed their winter coats. Remember, you learned the word blossom when we studied plants. What is a blossom? If you said a blossom is a flower on a plant or tree, you were correct. Here is a map of the United States. Remember I said that the Lenape people lived in the eastern woodlands. Well, here is New York State where we live. Way over here is Arizona where Ms. Marcy lives, or lives in the winter. This green area right in the middle of our country is called the eastern woodlands. That is where the Lenape people lived long ago. As the spring sunshine warmed the earth, the Lenape people set to work. They planted their spring crops. The Lenape men and boys prepared the fields for planting. When the fields were ready, the women and girls planted corn, squash, and beans. They also planted herbs, tobacco, and sunflowers. As the Lenape people worked in the fields, the creatures of the land and sky set to work too. Some animals woke up from their winter sleep. Others dug burrows. A burrow is a hole or tunnel used by animals as a home or hiding place. And birds built nests in preparation for their young. The Lenape and the animals and birds worked side by side. With the ice and snow gone, Lenape men and older boys were able to go on longer hunting trips. Usually they hunted on foot. Sometimes they traveled far from their villages in their dugout canoes. A dugout canoe is a long, skinny boat. Their canoes glided smoothly and silently along the rivers of the mid-Atlantic. When they returned from their hunting trips, they brought back meat and animal furs with them. The Lenape hunted animals such as bear, deer, elk, and raccoon. They hunted and trapped the birds too. Spring slowly turned into summer. The heat from the sun became even stronger. During this time, the Lenape people fished for salmon, herring, and shad. They guarded their ripening crops from the greedy birds. Ripening means they were getting ready to be picked and eaten. Lenape children gathered berries, collected firewood, and played in the sparkling rivers. As they played, they searched for turtles basking in the sunshine. That would have been my favorite thing to do if I was a Lenape child. In the summer, the Lenape people harvested their corn, beans, and squash. Harvested means gathered the crops when they were ripe enough, or they picked them. Corn was one of their most important food crops. It was ground to make cornmeal. It was used to make bread. It was roasted in the fire. Often the kernels were stored for use during the cold days of winter when nothing could grow in the frozen earth. In the autumn, or the fall, the Lenape harvested their gourds and pumpkins. They gathered nuts, roots, and berries such as huckleberries, raspberries, and strawberries. They made beautiful baskets to store their winter food in. They strengthened their wigwams. A wigwam is the name given to the type of Lenape home, just like you see right here. This hut is called a wigwam. They strengthened their wigwams and longhouses in preparation for winter winds that snow would surely come. In late autumn, the golden, red, and orange leaves fell from the trees. The Lenape children rushed to catch them or jump in the gathering piles. Gradually, the leaves blew away, carried by the chilly winds. The days darkened and winter arrived. Do you ever like to rake and jump in the leaves? I know I used to like to do that when I was little. The Lenape in winter. During the winter time, the Lenape people spent more time in their warm homes called wigwams. Their wigwams, made from saplings, rushes, bark, and fur, were warm and cozy. Inside the wigwams, the elders told stories of long ago. They told stories about the history of their people. They told stories about the creation of earth and the Great Spirit. Women and girls stayed busy making clothes and moccasins from animal skins and turkey feathers. The women and girls made pottery jars for cooking and storage too. Men and boys made spears, bows, and arrows. When the snow fell in the dark wintry sky, the Lenape children, just like children everywhere, rushed outside to play in it. Even in the winter, the men and older boys went off to hunt. They trekked through the deep snow on snowshoes. Trekked means traveled slowly and with difficulty. They followed animal tracks in the snow. If they returned with the meat, the women and girls prepared a warm stew or soup. Oops, I went one too far. One season followed another, as it has always done. The Lenape lived their lives according to the seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. They listened to the earth's rhythm of life. The world in which they lived provided them with everything they needed. They were guided by the earth's turning and the changing seasons. Such was the way of the Lenape. What is another name for autumn? Yes, fall. Fall and autumn are the same. Now some questions. What is the name of the Native American tribe we've been reading about today? If you said the Lenape, you are correct. What types of food did the Lenape eat? They ate animals such as deer and elk, crops such as corn, gourds, and pumpkins, and they fished. What did the Lenape do during the springtime? If you said they fished, collected berries and firewood, and harvested the crops at the end of the season, you are right. In the summer, they fished, collected berries and firewood, and they harvested the crops at the end of the summer. What did they do during the autumn or fall? You're right. They stored their summer harvest, prepared their wigwams for the winter and winds. What did they do during the winter? If you said they spent time in their cozy wigwams, told stories, made clothes, and still hunted, you were correct. Now we are going to do some word work. The word we are talking about today is harvested. Do you remember what harvested means? Yes, it means gathering the crops or picking them when they are ready. We're going to look at each one of these pictures and decide if these things can be harvested or not. Let's look at the first picture. Can you harvest sunflowers? And it looks like there's some corn or wheat growing in the background. Yes, they harvested the wheat crop at the end of the summer. Did they harvest pumpkins and gourds? Yes, they harvested pumpkins and gourds. Did they harvest a turkey? No, you cannot harvest a turkey. You can hunt a turkey, but you cannot harvest one. Did they harvest corn? If you said yes, you are correct. They harvested or picked the corn. Did they harvest fish? No, but they did go fishing. Here's another picture of corn. Did they harvest it? Yes. Not only did they harvest it, but if you remember, they stored the kernels away for the winter months. Finally, we have this animal. Can you harvest an animal? No, you can hunt an animal, but you cannot harvest one. Now, boys and girls, you are going to do your own harvesting. You're going to draw a picture of you harvesting something. You might be picking berries. You might be picking flowers. You might be picking an apple off a tree. I can't wait to see your pictures of you harvesting something.